So we will start with today's new topic, that is web services API. We call it as API automation. Okay. What is this about? As I explained in the introductory session, I think first session, that API is nothing but the backend or whatever request and responses you do via backend, that means not through UI, that is API. Okay. So whatever you do on UI, let's suppose you fill a form and click on submit. Okay. So, and the backend there calls a web service. Okay. There is a web service or a UI server architecture behind behind that submit button, which gets executed once you click on a submit button. Okay. So why don't we directly hit that web service instead of opening the URL, filling the form and going all through this? Okay, that is the main idea. So let's suppose I open any URL, okay, or maybe the same W3 contact form. Yesterday we have done this. Okay, so we provided the first name, last name, some country, okay, some subject, and click on this submit button. So what happens in the backend when we click on the submit button, okay, is it calls a web service. Okay, that web service is definitely a post request which contains a body, and that body request body will have all these parameters like first name, last name. This all details will go through a request. Okay, that request can be in form of a JSON, can be in form of XML, and once this submit button is hit, it goes with all this data to a to an endpoint. We call it as a web service. Okay, if you inspect it, okay, if you inspect it and go to the network tab, previously till now we were on elements tab. Okay, now we are talking about this network tab. Okay, so I put any random data. Okay, I just put any random data and I try to hit on the submit button. Okay, once I hit on the submit button, you can see these are the different calls which are made. Okay, this call, all these calls are made. Okay, so this is basically the endpoint. Okay, these are the different endpoints which you can see on the screen. Okay, so there are some Google ads on the screen, somewhat like this. So that's what this endpoint is there. Okay, it's a get request type is get, request method, the status code we got. So all the details you can see here from your browser as well. Okay, I'm just giving you an idea how in the backend what we see on the page UI, there comes a backend call. Okay, you can take any website. Let's suppose I will go to this housing.com, which we were trying to automate yesterday, and let me put any value. Okay, and once I hit this give me a list of some properties. That means a endpoint is being triggered. Now let's see that endpoint. Okay, let me inspect it. Okay, and let me put it like this now so that I can get the network details. Okay, here are the different calls which will be there. You can remove them, clear them from here, all the details, and you put any value. Okay, so you can see these are the different endpoints which are triggered. Okay, so one of them is this collect one. What does this collect? This is a Google Analytics one. This is an event, okay, of a widget where this endpoint is triggered. Okay, it's again a get request. This is a post request. So in this way, it calls different endpoints. Okay, you can see. So any website in backend, the developer configures in such a way, okay, that it triggers and it hits an endpoint. Okay, so that endpoint can be related to some ad, can be related to some getting some data on the page. Okay, all clear how endpoint is getting triggered and the method. Okay, the method can be get, post, anything. Okay, and then you will get a response code that this one is success or a failure. Okay, so whatever that responses starts with 4 or 5, they are error routes. Okay, 401, 403, these kind of response codes are means that you have an error. 200 or 201 means it's a success. Okay, that means you are green, it is a success. And here gets your response. Okay, so you can get my request, you would just pass the request, you get a response as well. Okay, so we'll have a look now. Okay, what exactly is this and how we can automate these things, okay, via this. So what I will do is I will just use a dummy API endpoint one, recruits.in. Okay, this is an open API. Okay, just for dummy purpose they have provided us a front end against a real API. You can see front end against a real API. So just you want to check if your endpoint is getting triggered or not. It's just kind of a dummy website which has several endpoints configured for you. In your case, it will be your application developers, your um, your application which is responsible to provide you these details. Okay, the endpoints. Clear? Just I'm taking a dummy one for now. And if you give it, you see scroll down, you can see it says give it a try. Okay, you can try your own these kind of endpoints you can hit. So what happens here guys is the most important thing is every endpoint. Okay, every endpoint has a several base URL as well as the remaining URL. Okay, so if you go here, you can see this is the first get call they are giving us endpoint. This is having slash API slash users question mark page equal to 2. Okay, what you understand from this is a URL. Okay, this is an endpoint which is used to get the data from the page 2. Which data? The data of the users. So you can have 40 users, 50 users. Okay, on page per page you can see there are 6 users. Okay, there are total 12 pages. You're talking about the second page. Okay, and these are the these are the 6 users which are present on page number 2. So one of them has ID 7, which has name as Michael Jawson, and the email is michael.jawson at request@recrust.in. Okay, similarly 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, these are the 6 users which is present on page number 2. There are such 6 users per page. There are total 12 pages, and this page which we are talking about is second number page. Okay, so in this way you can hit the request and get the response. So what I will be doing is I will click on this one. Okay, so you can see this is the response. Okay, this is the complete response. If I hit an endpoint, this one, I will get this response. Okay, I don't need to provide anything in the request body, and this is a get request. 95% of cases in the get request we don't need to provide the request body. Okay, but this URL you can hit. Okay, the endpoint you can configure. On the basis of that you can get a response which you can validate. Okay, so how we are doing is I will just prepare a diagram for you. I will just show you how exactly we are doing here is. Okay, The thing is, we can consider this is our system. Okay, this is my system. So here you can see this is my system. This is one server which is responsible for all the data. So what we will be doing is we will be hitting this endpoint. This is the server endpoint. Okay, we will hit from our system to this server. The server has some endpoint within it. Okay, so there will be definitely an endpoint for this server, and we will hit that endpoint. Okay, we called it as the URL. Okay, and we will hit it via either via request body or via null. Okay, so you can go with a request body. Okay, maybe if it is a post request, you need a request body. Okay, and what you get from their side is response. Okay, you will send a request and you will get response from the server, which is why we are hitting the endpoint. Okay, so in return from the server, you will be getting response. Clear? So what is endpoint? Endpoint is nothing but it is the identity of the server through which we want to get the data. Okay, and that endpoint have several base URL as well as the last URL, and then you hit a server via, there can be get call, post call, patch call, delete call. All these are the different types of transport types. Okay, get, post, put, okay, delete, patch. These are the different types of transport types via which you can hit it and you can get the response. Everyone is getting what we are trying to do here is we are trying to hit an endpoint, okay, to get the response. So this is basically backend of any UI. Okay, as I was showing you from the network tab, any UI you see does this thing in the backend. Okay, has this kind of architecture in the backend. So why should not we directly hit the endpoint via automation and not opening the URL, filling the details and everything? That is what we are concerned about. Okay, so everyone should be able to do API automation nowadays. Why? Because it is very fast, and using that API automation, we don't need to open the URL. We don't need to locate the elements. Okay, whatever we did till now is not required. Like here in this page, we don't need to open this URL like this. Okay, we don't need to find the locators of this all. Okay, and we don't need to put the values. We can just create a request body. Okay, And on click on submit, what happens is this call. This is a post call. So we'll just make a call, get the response, and done. Don't need to do via UI. Okay. Just an alternative. Cool. So that's what I was saying. This all thing, okay, this all thing will be wrapped up inside a UI, okay, inside a UI. And then what you see, okay, what you see is definitely the wrapper and not the inside things. Okay, so you see something like black box like this, but actually it's like this. Inside it, it's like this. Okay, so let's move ahead and try to automate this API. So you can see in this one, this is the base URL. Rec-res.in is a base URL, and the later on slash API slash users question mark page equal to 2 is the last URL. And this changes, but this remains same. Initial part will remain same. Just you need to change. That's like you want to get a single user, then you like do like this, then you want to do some create, you can do like this. Initial URL will same, just the last part will change, slash API slash users, something like this. Okay, fine. Let's try to do some practice, right? Because we already have talked about a lot about theoretical things, but what about practical? How we can do that? Okay. So now I will create a new solution. I want you all to create a new solution at your end as well. Okay. So let me name it as practice D5. Okay. I will browse it and I will save it in Ginger projects as project D5. The main application will again be my web app only. Okay. I'm not selecting currently the web services as my main app. I will do it later, but currently I'm planning to do it via web only. Okay. So done. You need to click on create to create this new solution as practice day 5. Why I have intentionally put web is you will be in such a condition that you need to have multiple target applications. Like you start with web, then you go to API, then you go to some other app cross platform, and so on and so forth. So we just created a new solution. I will go to the resources tab, environment tab, and I will create a new environment, and I will name this environment as env1. Okay, and I will click on finish to create this environment. I will go to my web app. Okay, my web app, and then what I will do, I will add a parameter. That parameter is nothing but the URL, and I will pass this URL https://recs dot. Okay, I just pass the URL what we have captured. I just created a new solution, new environment, just created a new environment, add new environment, and added a parameter URL. Okay, now I will go to the configurations tab and go to the agents, and I will add a new agent, and that agent will be nothing but my Chrome. Okay, so it's a Chrome, Selenium Chrome. Click on next and finish. Click on save. Okay, keep hitting save, because if you close the Ginger, the changes will not be able to reflect. Okay, so always have a practice to save everything. Okay, I just save the environment. Okay, either you can click on this plus save, or you can right click and click on save parent environment. And configurations also I did the same, Chrome, save. Okay, Now very important, okay, most important part, okay. You should be very clear that if you are in the biz, everyone please see my screen, okay. Don't do whatever you are doing. Why? Because this is very important. If you miss this, you will be in big problem, okay. You can see here the target application which we have just selected, my web app. So this business flow currently has only one target application, that is web, okay. But we need two target application now, web as well as web services API. So most of the time you will see this and you will try to add another target application, okay, to this business flow. That my business flow has several activities. One of the activities of web, another activities of web services, but you are not seeing here your target application, okay. You can see only one target application is there. So you need to go to configurations first, okay. See my screen please. You need to go to the configurations, you need to go to the target applications, okay. And you need to add this at a solution level, not at a business level. We are first adding the target application at a solution level, that yes, I need to add web services as well as one of my target application, okay. Click on save, okay. Yes. And then only at business flow level you will be able to click on, this is, I'm on the details page, details tab. You can click on edit and you can add this web services also as part of your business flow. Getting my point? First you
Yes.
need to add the
Mhm.
target application at the solution level. From where we can add the target application at the solution level? From the configurations tab. There
Configuration.
is a target
Mhm.
application tab, sub tab. From there you need to add the web services app as a target application, then only it will be available for you at a business flow level. Most of the time in the initial days you will get confused, okay. Why I'm not seeing a target application here? Why? Because at the solution level you have not added, okay. At the solution level you just have one target application, so you cannot add at a business flow level. So first of all, you need to add the target application at the solution level. Okay, configurations, target application, add the target application at the solution level, and then only you will be able to add it at a business flow level. Now we will go again to the configuration tab. As we have added a new target application, we need a new agent as well. So I will go to the agents tab. I will click on this plus symbol again. Click on next. This time my target application is web services. I will name it as API. Okay, you can give it any name of your driver, and I will have this configuration: platform as web services, driver as web services driver, type as web services. I will click on next and click on finish. So now I have two agents which I created, okay. One I will delete, whatever was the previous one. I don't need this anymore. I will delete it. So total two agents are with me. As I have two target application, I need two agents. One for Chrome, one for web services. Okay. So okay. So here previously when we configured the environment, we just have one application or one agent, one target application. So that's why we have just one app, but we can add another app here, name it as API, okay, because this app will be for web app, okay. So I just created a new one for API, new app for API, okay. And then I also passed the endpoint here, okay. And the endpoint is nothing but the same. This is the endpoint which I will be using to trigger the API. Okay. So the same I have passed here. Either I can have it in URL as well, but I am passing it as an endpoint here in the web app. Done. So as I have two target application, I have two apps for environment as well. One for the web, one for the API. So I just pass the endpoint here. Okay. Now it's not mandatory that these two URL and the endpoint will be same always. Okay. It may happen that you need to open a different page on web application and you need to automate some different endpoint. Okay. Suppose your flow starts from google.com, you need to Google something, then you need to hit an endpoint of request.in, request response.in, then that can also be happen. So you can pass here google.com. Okay. So let's suppose I have a flow of create customer. Okay. So first of all, I need to go to some UI. Okay. That UI is nothing my Salesforce UI. Okay. From where I need to create the customer. Once my customer is created, I get a customer ID. Okay. We have done that in the previous class on Guru One website, that we created a UI which gets us the customer ID. Now your flow says that customer ID, whatever you created, okay, you need to go with that and have a, you need to cancel that customer. It's created by mistake. I don't need it anymore. But now you don't need, you don't have a UI for that particular thing. Okay. So you need to take API help, okay, to cancel the customer. Okay. But this API has a different endpoint as Salesforce. Salesforce is a completely different application. Okay. It is developed by some different entity. That particular customer you can cancel via API. Okay. That API has a different URL. Okay. So in order to automate this complete flow, this one, okay, how you will be doing it, as you will first add a web app agent to create a customer for Salesforce. For that you will provide the Salesforce URL. Okay. Inside the my web app, for API part to cancel the customer, you have a different endpoint. Okay. For that you will do, you will pass that endpoint in the API application of environment. So here we will pass the endpoint of the cancel one. Okay. Here we will pass the URL of the Salesforce where we have created the customer. Clear? It
Yep.
depends on different use cases. Maybe you created a customer, but for its provisioning, you need a third-party interface. So for that, that third-party interface endpoint should be configured here in the API, and customer creation will be in the web app. It depends on different use case. So it's a good practice if you have different apps inside the environment for different target application. Cool. If we are done till this point, we will go ahead, okay, and we will rename this flow one to end-to-end flow. Okay, let's suppose this is my end-to-end flow, which has my web application as well as my web services app. Okay, so I just created a dummy business flow, okay, called end-to-end flow. Okay, and I added two target applications here. Okay, now I will go to the automate tab. So three ways to go to the automate tab. One is double clicking on the business flow. Second is right click and click on automate. And the third is the automate button on the right hand side top. Okay. So now we have one activity. Let's rename this activity as get get complete endpoint. Okay, I don't have complete endpoint, I just have the initials of the endpoint. Okay, request.in. I need to first get the complete endpoint from UI. Okay, how can I do it? I can go to this page request.in. Okay, and I can capture this text, okay, this details from the UI, and then I will get the complete endpoint. Suppose I don't know this endpoint, last one. Okay, so I'm capturing via UI. So how will I do it? I will first create a variable, because I need to store that inside a variable. Now, shall I create an activity variable or a business flow variable? What do you think? We need to create a business flow variable. Why? Because if we are creating a business flow variable, then only we will be able to use it in different activity, because that remaining endpoint, this one, we will be using for the next activity, which is to hit the endpoint. Okay, so therefore we will create a business flow variable here, not the activity variable anymore. And let me create a business flow variable, name it as, or we have added business flow variable as well as the activity variable. Let's play with global variable. Okay, let me have a global variable created. So from where we can do it? We can go to the resources tab, we can go to the global variables tab. Okay, and I will create a GBL variable now, so that I can use it throughout the solution. I don't want to use it only to the activity level or at a business flow level. Okay, or we can say it as last endpoint, last part of the endpoint. Okay, so just I'm renaming it as last endpoint. So because we can get the last part of the endpoint, initials we already know, the last one is the different. So that's why we need this variable, and don't need to save any, I mean we don't need to pass any initial string value, so it's okay. I will go back to the business flow. I just created a global variable. It just should have a GBL as a prefix. Okay, why? Because it's a global variable. So now, as we created the global variable and we are at the automate tab, I will now add an action from the action library as a browser action. Okay, what does this browser action will go? It will go to URL and the same endpoint, or same the web URL which we just passed in the environment variables. Environment 1, applications, my web app, global parameters, and the URL. Okay, so if I select the environment 1 from here, I will get the URL request.it. I will rename it as launch URL. This activity we are doing it on web. We are not doing anything on web services currently. Web services will do it, but this is just we are doing on web. So everyone is able to see this mapping. I mean, web application has a target agent as Chrome. Web services has a target agent as API, what we just created before. So if you have added this launch URL, you will be able to hit the URL, okay, in the Chrome, and this website is opened for you. Okay, now on this website we have to capture this text, this endpoint, remaining endpoint. So I will just inspect this like this. Okay, and I can see the class is the URL. Okay, I will just check if I have us in the span at the rate class equal to URL, just one result. So this is the XPath I will be using here, okay, to get the endpoint. So I'm reading it from the UI basically, okay, so that tomorrow if it is changes, I will get the updated one. So I added a UI element action. I will rename it to fetch endpoint, and I will say need to locate via XPath. Provided the XPath, it's just a simple text which I need to get the value, and I click on run action. You can see I get the endpoint. Here it is. Now you should not face any issue in writing the XPath. It's a tag name slash slash tag name at the rate attribute name equal to attribute value. Tag name is span, attribute name is class, attribute value is URL, and I will store this into a variable. That variable I have just created as GBL last endpoint. I just added two action. You also should have two actions in your web application activity called get complete endpoint. This is a web application activity. Is we have the quiz session yesterday. So on yesterday also, or day before yesterday, we had a question that one activity can have only one target application mapping. So this particular activity has only one target application mapping, that is web application. We cannot add an action of a web services on this activity. If you want to add a web services action, you need to create a different activity. So we are good till this point, then we'll move ahead. Okay, and we will now, as we got the endpoint, we are good with the web app flow. Don't see a star over here, keep on saving guys, okay, so that any unsaved work should be saved. Okay, so I just saved it, my activity, my business flow, and now I will be creating a new activity. So how I go back to business flow tab. Okay, you click on this plus button to add a new activity. It's a regular, it's not an error handler, and that activity we will name it as we need to get users. Okay, this is a activity to get users. Okay, I will select it as a web services app. Okay, I will not more no more having this as a this one web app. I will have it as web services app. Okay, and I will mark it as finish. So this time my target application is web services app for this particular activity. This for this activity I have a target application of my web app. Okay, always remember that each activity can be mapped to only one target application. Okay, then we will move ahead and check get users. Okay, so if you see get users here, it has a target application of my web services app. Clear? So we will add an action now. Okay, we'll add an action from the action library, and now you can see platform actions are different. Previously for web we are getting platform action as UI element, browser element, and so on and so forth, but here we are getting different things. Okay, we are getting different kind of actions here. So out of this, we will be using this third action, which is a web API REST action. Okay. This web API REST action will do? It will help us to hit an endpoint. Okay. Everyone is with me? All good till this point? We just created a new activity. We map that particular activity with web services app. Okay. So you need to be very confident. Why? Because people used to get only one target application. Okay. Let me do the mistake and show you. Okay. What usually we used to do mistake is like this. Okay. We don't have this here. We don't have this target application here. Okay. This web services app here at the business flow, and then we try to click on edit, and we don't see this web services app here, or even you don't mark it as a checked here. If you go to the activities and you try to see here get users. Okay. In the details one, you'll not, or you will create a new activity. Let's suppose you get a new activity created. You will say, I don't see web services app here. I'm not sure why. I'm just see web app here. Why you're not seeing web app services here is because at the business flow, you have not selected the web services app. If you have not selected from here, it will not be seen on the on the activities. You need to select this at a business flow level. Okay. And then only you will be see for different activity. Okay. So now I will change this in the detail section. I will change to web app to web services app. Okay. So I hope this point is clear to all of you. And now I just added a web API REST action. Okay. Here I will just double click on it and configure my endpoint URL over here. The endpoint URL is coming from one from the from the activity from the global variable, one from the environment parameter, environment one, applications, API, global parameters, and endpoint. So this is the initial part of my endpoint, and the later part, the next part, I'm getting from global variables. Mhm. So I'm getting a double slash over here. So I need to remove it from my environment. Okay, because I don't need two slashes. I just added this slash over here. So I will remove that. And now if I'll check, I get both the endpoints, both the variables configured to get a single endpoint. You are getting what we are doing here. We got this endpoint from environment, which is the initial one, which doesn't changes, but the last one changes as we change the activity. Next activity we can have to create the user. Okay. So for that purpose, we have bifurcated this endpoint into two parts. One is the initial one. The last one is the last part. So for the last part only, we have this inside of global variable. We can have it as a business flow variable as well. Why can't we have it as a activity variable? Because we will not be able to then use it in different activity. It will be constrained to only get complete endpoint only. If I created variable at this level, we would not have been used it as a in the get users one. Okay. So that's the problem here. That's why we created a global variable, or you can create a business flow variable, but not an activity variable which has a scope only in that particular activity, not outside the activity. So I will rename it. I will rename this one to get users. Okay. So once this endpoint is configured, we need to select the request type. Now you can see there are a lot of request types. As I mentioned, it can be put, get, post, view, patch. Okay, lots of are there, but we need to use the get one. As in the page you can see this endpoint is a get call. Okay, so I'm using a get call only over here. Okay, this HTTP version sometimes for the previously called one it's maybe 1.0, but currently it's always 1.1, so we don't need to change this anyone. Many times this response content type can be in form of PDF, can be in form of this multi-part form data XML, but 99% it's in the form of application JSON, as we are doing a REST call here. Okay, and this is for the cookies part, so we are using the session cookies only what we have currently in our system. This is the part request body. Okay, if you expand it you can see you can pass a request body over here. Similarly we do in Postman. Okay, the same thing we can pass it here as well, but we don't need a request body as it's a get call. Okay, you can see there is no request body passed. In the security configurations here in the last part, okay, you can provide the SSL certificate details. Okay, this is mainly required for authorization. Okay, so same thing you can do via Postman. These all things you need to configure in Postman as well. Okay, when you want to hit an endpoint, the same thing we are doing it via Ginger, but it's quite easy because just you need to provide the endpoint and do some configurations here only. Okay, now I will going to run this action. Okay, just and configure the endpoint and I will click on run action. If you click on the run action you can see in the output values we got 64 entries created. Now what is this 64 entries about? So all the details related to this endpoint are now captured in these 64 entries. Okay, so you can see these are all the details. Okay, we got the details of the page number 2. Okay, so that's why we got all these details. The same thing what we check here in the response page equal to 2, per page 6, total pages 12, 12 total pages 2. All these details we are getting individually here. Okay, page equal to 2, per page 6, total 12, total pages 2. All the details we are getting individually as well as the complete response. So if you click on this greater than symbol, this will be helping you to get your actual value and your expected value. And if you click on this expression editor, the whole response, it's the same response what you are getting on your web page, you're getting from Ginger as well. Here you can see the same response, the same response. Okay, the same thing you will get in Postman as well, but you will not get, what you will not get in Postman is the bifurcated response like this page per page. So all the key value pairs which has a value something they have provided individually as a parameters. See the beauty. Otherwise you need to manipulate this response to get all the key value pairs individually. Let's suppose I just want to get the email of the person ID 7. So what I have to do, this complete response I need to then trim it out based on several parameters and get this Michael Lawson at the retractors.in. No, don't worry, you have Ginger. You can get it directly via this one and store it in a variable. But now I don't want to have it in Ginger. I need to save it into a file, the response file. No worries, Ginger is here. You can see these two. This is the request.json. This is the response.json. So the beauty is it automatically creates a JSON for you. Okay, in the backend, naming as get users, which is your action name underscore your timestamp of today underscore response.json. Okay. Now, where is this file? If you go to backend, you go to Solution Explorer, you go to Documents, you go to there is two folders automatically get created. One is request, another one is response. If you go to response, you can see the response is saved here. So in that way, you can track it later on as well to check the response. Okay. I hope so. This thing is clear to all of you. So this is your response you get, okay, in the form of JSON. You can open it in any editor, maybe in Notepad++ or any editor. So everyone is clear how easy it is to hit an endpoint. It seems very difficult that how we will we do the API automation, but it's quite easy if you use Ginger. Okay. So now what I will do is I will save that email, okay, in a variable, and I will write it in the Excel. Okay. So you see what are such complications we are doing. We will do in live projects as well. That we go to the web UI, get the endpoint from UI, use that particular endpoint from to get the user mail, and we will write that in the Excel. So this time I'm creating an activity variable to capture the email ID. So I will just create a string variable as an ACT underscore email underscore user email. Okay, this will be my variable to create an email ID, and that user which I was that email which I get from here as row number 28, I will store it into a variable and I will save it into ACT user email. Okay, so that when I run this action, that email will automatically get saved, and whatever the parameters you will map it will be on the top. So you don't need to scroll again and again. Whatever is there, it will become as a first one. And you can see here I have configured it to user email to save this variable into user email. And then I need to write that particular thing into Excel. Okay, so I hope everyone is able to write it to Excel. So this time I want you to do it first. Okay, to write it to Excel. So just create an Excel in the data sources. I will do together the data sources. I will add a new file, Excel file, and I will name it as user details maybe, and I want to write it. So I will browse it. This is clear to I think everyone. Not the input data. I need to go to get, it's a day 5 Ginger projects, day 5 data sources, and this user details just now I created. So I provided this XLS file path over here. Okay, so all others, please be with me. The same thing we need to do at your end as well. We need to configure this Excel path. I clicked on view all data. I'm getting all the data over here. So I put ID equal to 1 where I want to write the data. Very important part. You need, if you are writing the data, then you need to definitely pass the primary key column, that is our ID, and then so there you have uh, here we have read cell data as well.
Mm.
Okay, if you want to read from a particular cell data, okay,
Yes.
you can provide it to read the data from cell, but we cannot write the data on a particular cell. Okay,
Mm.
because if you go for read cell data, you can give the cell X and Y, I mean row number and column. But for writing the data, we need to provide actually which column we need to do write the data. So we just run the action after configuring all this, and you can see now my email ID is written in the Excel. Okay, as I just provided the condition that where ID equal to 1, and in the last data to write as email equal to the variable name, like this. Okay, so I hope till this point everything is clear. So we will go and add a new action, that is our web API REST action, new action, and in which we will try to do a post one. Okay, so let me go back to my request.in URL. Okay, just a dummy APIs, and will I try to create a new user. Okay, I will try to create a new user, and that requires you a name and a job. Okay, there should be two things you should need to pass, a job and a name. So I will be using this post request, okay, which is to create the user. So this is the endpoint. Okay, this is the endpoint we need to hit, slash API slash users. Okay, and this is the response. Okay, we'll be getting as a post request. So let me do one thing. Let me try to automate this. How we can do it is we will configure the endpoint again. Okay, and this time as an we will pass the environment parameter, that is from my API, the initial endpoint, which will be the same. Okay, request.in. After that I need to put a slash. Okay, the slash API slash users. Okay, so I will be using this endpoint basically to use it for create user. Okay, you can see this is there, slash API slash users. It should be the same as you see on the screen, this one. Okay, so you can compare it by putting it down as well, that both of them are equal or not. Okay, both of them are equal, then okay, click on OK. And now this is a post call. Okay, this is a post call which requires a body, request body here. Okay, so request body we need to pass From here, request body create. This is the request body. I will pass this request body here. Okay, but I don't want to pass this request body as it is. So I can open this expression editor and I can pass the name as my email. Okay, I'm not sure if it accepts it, but let's try to have the user's name as its email ID and its job, okay, as Ginger Expert. Let the world know. Okay, so this is the two details which I'm passing. One is the name, one is the job, which are my request payload, okay, request body, which I'm passing it here as the body content. So even you can pass this request body from a file. Okay, let's suppose you have a file. So from file also you can toggle this button, okay, and you can pass them via file as well. It's not required you always pass it as a free text. You can pass it from file as well. So that is it. And then I will rename this action to, let's say, create user. Okay, and once that is done, I will try to run this action and you can see it's a success with 21 output values, and you can see the user is created with name as the email ID and the job as Ginger Expert. The ID is 518. Okay, the ID is 518 for this particular user, and it is created at this timestamp. So whatever details you will see on the screen, the same details response you can see here. So in the output values, you can get multiple output rows. Okay, maybe 500, 600 as per your response. So then you need to search. Okay, like suppose I need to search the ID. So you can see I just get two rows filtered with ID. Okay, so this is very important, the search one here, search text box, to check the response. Otherwise it will be very difficult because in live
Yeah.
you will have a very big response. Okay, I mean having 500, 600 parameters. This search one helps a lot. Okay, I really like this search one, so that you can search anything. Let's suppose I would need to search the name. Okay, so I will just put name and you, it will say us that name is used at 4 rows. One is the name, another one is in the response. Obviously response will be there, and this thing. So I really like this one. So you can also try searching it. Okay, okay, if I parameterize this one with a variable value, it becomes data 2 next time. So now Michael Lawson will not be saved in activity variable. It this the next user's email, okay, that is the second user's email, will be saved, that is Linde Ferguson. Okay, this will be saved because I am not parameterize this in this index. The parameters are not actually hard coded. I mean if you have configured this thing, um, you can actually parameterize this thing. That is the very important. They have added expression editor. If they have not added this expression editor here, then this will not have been possible. The beauty is they are all in everywhere, they are able us to parameterize things. Next topic is command prompt automation. I mean CMD automation DOS application. Okay, so we are done with API. You can try more using the same API action. This is the done of the API. Okay, if you have any other questions, Obviously there are very advanced concepts as well, okay, in API. This is just a starting. Everything what we have done for you is just an overview and a basic to get you started, okay. There are a lot of things, believe me, which we cannot cover during this amount of time. That's why we have not done it, like the page object model and everything, which makes more life easy in web. The same thing we have here is like in the API, we can create the templates, we can do lot of things here, advanced things, okay, using the API model as well. Okay, there is a API model which which is the advanced Ginger concept. Similarly, in each of the application, okay, we have very advanced concepts, which will be very helpful. But we gave you just the brief overviews and get you, sir, you should get started with this. Thank you.